Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to The Collision. It's Daniel here, joined by Sam, moving through inverted time to talk about Tenet. The new Christopher Nolan movie just hit theaters. Do we understand it? Probably not, but we're excited to talk about it, so let's go. So, Tenet. We're both Christopher Nolan fans. I know a lot of you guys are big Christopher Nolan fans. Inception, so many amazing movies that he's put out. One of the few, I feel like, directors that can sell a movie just based on his name. You don't need to sell people on the plot or the trailer. It's a new Christopher Nolan movie.
If you know if he's involved, it's pretty much yeah.
Yeah,
Let's go see it.
It's kind of like it's like an event movie. Whether you like all the movies or not, some are better than others maybe, but whatever he does, it's usually worth checking out. So Tenet was one that we've been excited to see. We kind of got delayed with all the craziness going on in the world, so we finally did see it.
And now my brain is scrambled eggs.
Yeah, we should say at the start, if you're coming to this review to understand, Tenet, explain, the 10 things you missed.
That's not going to be what you find.
That's not what we're going to do, because, again, we just finished seeing the movie. It's definitely a movie you need to see a couple times.
Yeah,
go on Reddit and have some people explain it to you. So again, we're coming in fresh. Maybe our review would change after seeing it again, understanding more of it.
Think of this as an unboxing, not an in-depth review.
But why don't you start unboxing it for us? What's initial thoughts on this film?
Well, I mean, it's crazy, and it's kind of edge of your seat action. It was tense the whole time. The score, I think, was done by the same guy who did Mandalorian and some other stuff. Super good, just very tense throughout, and so
loud,
very loud. But it was one of those you're just like, what is going to happen next? And it's just there's this tension building, which Christopher Nolan does that in a lot of his films. It's like there's just you're waiting for this big crescendo at the end, but it was super intense. And just really edge of your seat.
And I was kind of thinking it's that, but it's in maybe a different way than some of his others. I was thinking on the way back, maybe a movie like Inception is almost like juggling, where he keeps throwing you another ball, and you can follow what's happening, but you have so many balls in the air trying to connect the dots. This movie to me is more like a puzzle. Because it's a lot of, especially the first half, you really have no idea what's going on.
Yeah.
And it's not something that you could know. There's information that just hasn't been revealed. Some of the physics of how things are working, the mechanics of sort of this time travel inversion. So you kind of have to just trust Nolan and just go along with it, knowing that, it's these pieces will fit together to make a picture by the end.
And I think what's really neat about that is you start to you kind of have these light bulb moments towards the end, the second half of the film. You're like, oh, wait a second, that guy is that guy, and it's so, but that doesn't mean that you understand it.
Yeah.
It just means okay, I see what they're doing here, sort of.
So it's kind of a different, it's not like a standard, just, I think it's entertaining.
Yeah.
It's exciting, but it's not a typical kind of, you just watch the hero, the clear mission and objectives and characters.
Yeah, nothing is very clear.
You're sort of just watching, to try and figure out what's happening.
And I think it's exciting just to kind of, because that, and so just kind of watching it all unfold, that's super exciting to me. So, okay, so how is that going to play out? And so I think that's what makes it a really entertaining movie.
Yeah, I think Christopher Nolan it's one of those films, I think, that you can get away with it because you're Christopher Nolan. I think he's built enough kind of currency in the culture that he can kind of just throw craziness at you that doesn't make any sense, because viewers by this point, I think, know to trust him, that he has a plan, things are going to add up, the loose ends are going to tie. If it's some new director, I think people will probably be getting pretty frustrated in the first part of this. But maybe any kind of standout, we can get into some of the themes and things that are going on in this movie. A lot of interesting, very Nolan-esque stuff. I think you said before, he's obsessed with time.
Yeah, all of his films are about time, but there's a lot of subtleties, and I guess maybe that's also kind of a hallmark of or a trademark of Nolan is his subtleties. But there's certain like gestures and words that are said that the protagonist is told is kind of part of the in club, but that are dropped throughout the film in a very subtle way, which I found was kind of fun to just see. Oh yeah, she just did the, the welcome signal or whatever. So I thought that was kind of neat. And there's just some reveals in certain shots that you're just like, they're just really well done. And that was fun to watch.
I forget now which character says. I think when he's the main character who doesn't get a name, it's just the protagonist. He's getting some kind of exposition on how things work, and the character that's training him kind of says, don't. I forget exactly how she said, but don't think it, feel it. Like don't.
Yeah.
I think that's this kind of a meta advice for people watching the movie that
right.
Like especially as you're watching it the first time. You're gonna get lost, and some of anything dealing with time always ends up in like but if he did this, and isn't there, does that mean that this, and you just sort of go down this, there's a reason. It's all like a paradox. And the movie draws attention to a lot of that. They have those conversations, but I think approaching the film, it's better just to sort of accept that, they're doing this, in this movie. You gotta kind of accept that this could happen.
Enjoy it for what it is, and try not to overanalyze it.
Yeah, and then go home and spend a couple of evenings on Reddit looking at diagrams and theories. And but anything that stood out in this film that you like, maybe that you didn't like, that.
Well, I mean, always the cinematography of his films are always fantastic, and I think the score just really. I was thinking about that throughout the film, just that it has such a driving force. And sort of this build up that Nolan always does, and I thought that was really, really cool, just to kind of be in the theater and to just kind of feel all.
Yeah,
all
we were in
it.
like the Dolby AMC, so like our
It was
seats
loud
were,
and rumbling.
I thought someone was like behind me kicking the seat. It's like, no, is this an airplane's crashing into an airport? I think one of this isn't necessarily a critique or a praise. It's more just. I guess an observation that I think Nolan, in a lot of ways, and see if you agree or not, like he's kind of a concept director.
Yeah.
None of his films really get super into character development or, some of the more emotional. Like there is some of that in this movie. But he starts with sort of not a gimmick, but like a concept, and then that's what
or
drives.
A theory, yeah.
Yeah, like like Inception, the dream within a dream. And then that's what drives the film more than the characters, really, or because you don't really, we said the main character doesn't get a name. You don't necessarily get a whole lot of development.
Yeah, it's all very like just high class actors. Like it's all, I think, wonderfully acted. But there's no backstory. There's no real character arc necessarily. But it's just all the actors within the film are just kind of there to serve this idea or this.
Yeah, it's like it's very plot concept driven. Everything else around it just sort of exists to explore this idea. And again,
is what I think it's wonderfully done. But that it's not heavy on the character development side.
Yeah, you don't get a whole lot of emotional beats. You get a lot more of like, wait a minute, like.
Well, I wonder if he just puts in the sort of trying to save the wife of the evil genius. Like, I wonder if that was just sort of like here's the human element of this story.
Because there is kind of more
push that forward.
You do see a little more of that connection through the.
And it's not to say that he doesn't ever do that, but yeah, I think there's always at least one. Like Interstellar was the father-daughter thing, and so that sort of is the human component that kind of keeps you in to explore this theory further.
Yeah, you can tell what really excites him though is like the idea of in this case
inversion,
moving backwards through time and just sort of wrestling with what is time, what is the present, what is the past. So it's if you're going in here looking for some big emotional beats, you might not get that as much, but I think.
But it's just tense.
It gives a lot to chew on, and I think it actually, because of that, because it's more like concept based, there is more in his movies that get you thinking, to wrestle with kind of deeper themes. Maybe not necessarily human, like personal, individual themes, but like larger reality
Right.
themes. Anything that stood out as far as that? Like, what is this film? Is it just pure entertainment? Is it trying to explore anything?
Well, you know, you and I talked about it on the way home or on the way back. Just this idea of using sort of time traveler and traveling backwards through time to fix, fixing the past to fix the, or
Yeah.
changing the past to fix the future.
Again, we don't want to get. This is one of those movies that's hard to talk about without spoiling it. It's hard to spoil too because we don't really understand it.
I don't know if it turned out good or not.
Yeah, but again, that's the idea of the film is
Yeah.
moving backwards through time, trying to change things. And that's all time travel films kind of deal with that. If you do something in the past, does that mean that it happened in the future? If you
And then there's all sort of just wormholes you can kind
like
of.
they talk about in the film, it's like the grandfather paradox. Like if you
yeah.
go back in time and murder your grandfather,
Does that
does that mean you just cease to exist? How can you still be alive to, it's kind of wrestling with that. But I think like Sam was saying, it's interesting that I think one of the themes that comes out in this film is just the idea of looking to the past and kind of trying to correct the wrongs and the evils in the past in order to kind of save the future. And it stood out to me because I think that's, I don't know if he was making a commentary directly on our society and our world, but it definitely works that way. I think as a whole, our culture has been wrestling with that, kind of looking at some of the views. You can see that with racism. You can see that with feminist. You can see that with so many different areas in our culture that, there were things that were done, said, believed in the past that we wouldn't agree with today. So sort of how do we fix that?
How do you deal with that?
Yeah. Do you rewrite the textbooks? Do you kind of go back and try and change what happened or forget it, or do you move on? Do you address it in the future? So it gives a lot to chew on. I thought that was interesting. I think another thing that which is maybe kind of he introduced in Inception is just the idea that there's more to the way we perceive reality than because there's a moment at the end, and I don't want to give too much context to it. But where someone talks about that there's more and people are moving through time and stuff, and one of the characters says is that I have faith in this or something like that, and he responds like, some people call it faith, I just call it reality. That there's more to this world than
what you see or your single existence. I think.
Which is it was kind of interesting because it's sort of like a scientific movie in a way, but it's also
but I think anytime you start to deal outside of sort of what we would call like a normal timeline or reality, then I think you invariably dip your toe into the unscientific, and because there's so much that we don't know, and so I think you kind of have to go into that realm of possibilities of whether it's whatever's outside of your reality. And so that opens, I think, the door for spirituality or God or what's on the other side of the curtain kind of thing. And so I think that's, you kind of get beyond science, but it's done in I think Nolan does it in a very scientific way.
Yeah, so he starts with this deeply scientific concept, and it just sort of opens the doors wide open for that there's so much more. If this is true, then what could be true? So I think there's a lot of interesting stuff going on. Maybe when we've seen the movie again, we'll understand a little more of the nuance to that. But just coming in one time, kind of being blown away by it the first time, those are some of the things I think that stood up for both of us. Any just sort of final thing? Do you think people should see this? Do you think people will enjoy this? Will some people enjoy it? Will some people hate it?
I mean, I obviously I think there's a certain type of person that enjoys this, and some people won't enjoy it. But I think it's at least worth going to with an open mind and just enjoying it for what it is. And like one of the characters says, just feel it, don't really think it, and then think about it a lot afterwards. Of course, but it's good. And I just think the time that we're in now too, to kind of have something that just totally scrambles your brain and has you thinking about something other than whatever's happening in your life right now, which in some ways is what entertainment does. Is it should sort of we should escape from our current reality and get scrambled up in Nolan's reality. But it's fun for that, and then I think there's just all these complex things that come out of it, and so not everyone's gonna love it, but
Yeah,
I
I
think
feel
it's
like-
worth giving it a
I
shot.
feel like Nolan's he's definitely pushing the edge of what he can get away with as far as like,
Yeah,
I think with audiences. I think I'll be curious. You know, I feel like we both enjoyed this film. You know, I wouldn't put it up against like an Inception or some of these other movies that he's done that I really enjoy. But I think it's worth seeing. I don't know. Is this a film? I feel like it's a film you have to watch more than once. But is it a film that you necessarily like?
I mean,
It's not like a crowd pleaser. even if
no,
it has-
so it's not. You're not going to watch it every New Year's for like Lord of the Rings or something
Yeah.
that some people here do. But I think it's worth watching probably twice at least twice, just so you can kind of better understand it. But it's just such a fascinating and different type of film that I think you kind of have to watch it at least once, maybe twice.
Yeah, there's stuff that you will have never seen. There's some like fight scenes
And just even like thinking about even just watching it and seeing, okay, so how would they have had to
film like
film that? So it
like it's definitely fresh in a Hollywood culture that doesn't have a whole lot of freshness. There's
Yeah.
ideas and stuff that play out in here that have never been done or explored, and so it's definitely
Yeah.
worth. So again, I'll be curious. I think we'll both be curious to hear what you guys think of this film if you guys go see it.
definitely.
If you feel like safe going to the theaters, want to check out Tenet, please let us know what you thought of it. Did you enjoy it? Was it a little too philosophical? Did it lack some of the crowd pleasing action of like an Inception or even maybe an Interstellar? Or were you pulled right in trying to piece together this puzzle? The chances are you probably pieced it together better than we did. So again, if you notice anything that we didn't touch on or that we just missed when we were watching it, let us know that as well. We'll be happy to have you explain this movie to us. But again, we appreciate you guys checking out this review. It's good to be back doing reviews.
Yeah.
We're gonna do our review of Mulan coming up next week. So as of now, movie theaters are opening, movies are coming out. So we're back doing reviews. So hopefully you'll join us as well. Again, guys, stay safe out there. Have a great week and continue to collide with your world for Christ.